Hi, it's me, Bob, again. I've made a video in the past about this subject, but I want to update it a little bit since the death of the Pope and the talk about who's going to succeed him. And I have a couple of things I want to say about that whole subject. Um, One is we need to remember the Daniel 70th week. That's one of the major doctrines in the Bible. It's something that most churches don't talk about, but it's a critical doctrine and it needs to be understood. And you'll see in a minute why I bring that up. And that is because if we go back to Israel before the church age, let's just say it was 33 AD when the church age started. I know there's a lot of controversy about when the church actually started, but for now, let's just say it was around 33 AD, which is when I think the crucifixion took place and the veil was rent in the temple. It's a good time, I think, for the church to begin. Um, but at that time, actually before the church age began, I want to talk about Israel. At that time, Israel, of course, had the Sanhedrin. Israel's main enemy at that time, of course, was the Roman Empire. Israel had the temple and all of the artifacts in the temple. I'm not sure whether the Ark of the Covenant was there at the time. As a matter of fact, I don't think it was. But most of the other artifacts were in the temple. They probably had the ashes of the red heifer and all of the things that pertain to that temple. And then the church age began, and God started to deal with the church age. If you will, he stopped dealing with Israel. I once, in one of my classes, I said it was sort of like a basketball game. Let's say it was the Knicks against the Lakers. When they were playing on the court, the clock was running. But if something happened and there was an injury to one of the players, the clock stopped. And the reason the clock stopped is very simply the game had stopped because the two teams were not playing. Therefore, the clock was not going to run while the two teams were not playing. But as soon as the injured player, was taken off the court and play had resumed, then the clock started again. Well, in history and in real time, the game, if you will, is Israel. As long as God is dealing with Israel, the clock will tick. As soon as God stops dealing with Israel, the clock will stop. Will stop, and that's what happened during the church age. The clock stopped, and again, this has to do with Daniel's 70th week. I won't get into all of that, but if you will, the church age will end when the tribulation period begins. And I'm pretty positive that the tribulation period will begin when the Antichrist signs the covenant, the Daniel 9:27 covenant. That is when that 7 year period will begin. And the church age will stop and the clock will start ticking again. As a matter of fact, we know that it will start ticking for 7 more years. You could almost count it to the day. I think the math is 30 days in a month. It'll be 36 months for the first half and 36 months for the second half of the tribulation. So you could work out the exact amount of days if you want. But again, that's when Israel will start to, if you will, the clock will start ticking again. Now, I've said, and I'll say it now, that when God takes the parenthesis of the church age, and if you will, that parenthesis will dissolve and it'll be taken out of the equation, God will go back the best that God can in reality to how it was when the clock stopped, which was when the church age began. So just imagine the parentheses of the church age ceasing to exist for this video, if you will. And then Israel will go back to the time of Israel back around 33 AD to, let's say, the time of Jesus. Now, of course, it can't go back exactly how it was um, because we have to deal with reality and what's happening right now. But the point of this video is to say that when God goes back to dealing with Israel and picks up where he left off, which was before the church age began, we have to look at Israel at that time. And the two things that I want to point out at that time was that there was no Muslim influence at that time. You will not read in the New Testament or even in the Old Testament about any Muslims, any Arabs. That started much later. So there was no Muslim influence at the time of Jesus. And there also wasn't a Catholic Church at that time. What was the religion at that time? Well, for Israel, of course, it was Jehovah, but for the rest of the world, which Rome pretty much had control of, it was emperor worship. Okay, no Catholic Church. So, in my opinion, when the rapture takes place and God starts dealing with Israel again, and God picks up where he left off, in my opinion, there's not going to be a Muslim influence and there's not going to be a Catholic Church. I have a lot of opinions about the religion during the tribulation period. I think it's going to be a new age religion, if you will. It will be worldwide, and it'll definitely have something to do with Rome, with the Antichrist, because, in my opinion, Emmanuel Macron, who was definitely the Antichrist and who will become the emperor of Rome, the world will be forced by the false prophet to worship Emmanuel Macron. And that again will pick up, if you will, at the same time where God left off. It will be emperor worship. So it's not hard to understand with what's going on in Israel right now. They are trying everything they can do to get back to where they were before the church age, with the red heifer, with the temple worship, with the sacrifices, with the Sanhedrin. All of that is so similar to what it was back before the church age. So it's not a problem to see that God is going to restart Israel, if you will, where God left off back around 33 AD, if you will. And the other issue, as I just mentioned, of course, is Rome. Rome right now, all throughout my website here, I'm talking about the revived Roman Empire. Daniel 70th week talks about how the tribulation will pick up with the final week of history. And we know that the revived Roman Empire, according to the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, will continue. It'll rise again. And Emmanuel Macron, as I said, will be the emperor. Emperor worship will begin again. And Europe will be the center of the world under the auspices of the Antichrist. So what we have is, like I said, an exact duplicate of what happened before the church age, Israel and Rome. And again, the reason for this video, because of the death of the Pope, people are talking about the Catholic Church. That might make a difference for the next few months, but in my opinion, during the tribulation period, is not going to make any difference because there's not going to be a Catholic Church. The Pope will not be a significant player during the tribulation period. It will be Rome, and then it will be Israel, exactly the way it was before the church age started. Please pay attention to the buildup of Israel and the buildup of Rome. And this is going to pick up exactly when the tribulation period starts. Okay, thanks.